Hi, this is Ashley Buell, and I am doing my video blog for Module 2, where we're asked to select a specific technology and analyze how it is a product of social construction as well as having a decided influence on social relations. So, one of the first questions that we're asked to answer is to identify the technology that we selected and how human actions have helped shape the technology and where the technology came from. So the technology that I'm going to discuss in this blog is taken from my initial discussion posts about the technologies that have been influenced by the show Star Trek. Now there's many technologies on this show that have been made into real life technologies for us today. The cell phone, the tablet, GPS, just a ton of them. So the one that I decided to focus on though is the language translator. Now in Star Trek they use one called the Universal Language Translator that would allow the crew of the Enterprise to be able to understand alien languages that they didn't know. And so it would break down this barrier for the crew that when they met a new alien and whatever world planet they were on for that episode, they could take out this language translator and understand what that alien is trying to tell them, and then go on whatever adventure they have for that episode. So this technology has actually been worked on for about 15 years by Microsoft, who actually bought out Skype in 2011, and most of us know Skype as a voice and video chat service, a messenger system as well, that we use to communicate with people all over the world. Well, in 2014, Skype came out with the Skype translator using that technology that Microsoft had been working on, and it enables people who speak one language with someone else that speaks to another language to communicate with one another by video chat, and this is done in real time. With a little bit of lagging because the process has to still be completed of translating one language into another, but it gives people an opportunity to talk face to face with one another. So, moving on, we're also asked to describe the meaning ascribed to the technology by one or more social groups. Well, the social groups are made up of people from all sorts of cultures, backgrounds, in different countries, cities, towns, what have you. And the language translator that we use now gives people the opportunity to talk in real time with someone that speaks another language, and you don't have to have a third person, an interpreter, or somebody else around that you have to rely on in order to get business done, personal dealings done. You can just open up this translator and get things done quickly. It opens up opportunities for businesses, and somebody in a business in Asia can go ahead and do their business dealings in real time over the video chat with an English speaking business, and it gets things done a lot quicker. This even helps in different families that have had maybe family members move to a different location and eventually they start speaking different languages, or the younger generations that grow up from this move can speak with their family and keep up with their culture and their heritage where they come from by speaking just this other language that their family might speak. So also, in the case of the language translator, I definitely think it's a case of technological momentum that Thomas Hughes from the book, he defines technological momentum by saying that social development shapes and is shaped by technology. Well, the language translator gained that technological momentum needed for this translator to become realized because there was a social need for the technology. The technology later has become shaped by the society that used it as well. It was a piece of science fiction that inspired people over a couple generations, and especially in the last 15 years, to create that science fiction in real life. because they saw a real need for the technology. Just like I said, for business dealings, family dealings, what have you, friends, what have you. So they, began a long process and to create it. Now the technology affects our current society, letting different people of different languages, cultural backgrounds, and they can interact with one another in ways that haven't been available before just a couple of years ago without having an interpreter or someone else involved in the discussions. Something else we're asked to address here is to identify how the technology is shaping the way people behave. Well, I touched on this a little bit, but go ahead and continue. The language translator gives people more freedoms with whom they speak to. It cuts down this barrier that we all have, that we can only talk with someone that speaks our language. Maybe we don't even want to pursue somebody else that speaks another language and learn things from them because we don't know how to communicate with them. So you don't need an interpreter. You don't need to carry around a little book with you or have an app on your phone. You can speak with them face to face using the Skype translator. Some people might not have time to learn another language. They don't want to learn another language. They have difficulty learning in general, and need to speak with somebody that speaks a different language. And this language translator is going to change their behavior, and being afraid of doing that, they're going to be more confident in being able to communicate with somebody else. The next thing is we're to describe at least one conflict between humans and the technology that I selected. So the translator still isn't perfect. It does still make mistakes when translating one language to another, and it can cause problems for the people that are communicating with one another. Now, being human, we understand that machines and technology does make mistakes, and going in knowing that the translator can make these mistakes and turning a phrase around in one language from another, those two parties that are talking with one another can hopefully know there's a misunderstanding and then rephrase how they're talking to one another, and the translator will then, rephrase whatever was misunderstood, and they'll get through the conflict as long as both parties can work together on this. So now there is the translator, they're saying it's almost like a brain, and it'll learn English, but then whenever you teach it another language, it'll learn English even better and learn that new language. And then a third language will come along and it'll be spectacular English, be really good at that second language, and, Chinese maybe. And the final language it'll be, good at. So each new language it learns, it actually gets better at other languages, and they still haven't quite figured out why it does that. So it's something I'll look into a little bit further in this class. So, I hope that I touched all the subjects that were topics that were needed to be answered, and thank you for watching.